Joining us now to discuss is Kurt Bardella. He's a political commentator and former spokesperson for the House Oversight Committee. Now, Kurt, we saw Julian Castro sort of allude to Joe Biden's age in the previous debate. That backfired on him. Do you suspect we might see more of the same?
You know, I think this is one of those tough times where if you're a Democrat thinking about attacking Bernie for this, I think that it's going to boomerang back on you. I think, like Alice said, we all definitely want him to be healthy. We want him to recover well. I think that if you go after his health in this way, so close after actually suffering an actual heart attack, you could look cold, you could look callous, you could look opportunistic. This is one of those things where the voters themselves are going to have to figure out whether or not they think that age and previous health issues is really a disqualifying factor. So remember the health issues, the heart issues that former Vice President Dick Cheney had, and ultimately the voters sent him back to that top of the ticket twice. So I think attacking him would look desperate, especially if one of the candidates who isn't gaining traction tries to use that as a vehicle to try to advance themselves. What happened speaks for itself. How Bernie responds to that will also speak for itself, and going after that directly would be a mistake.
Now, for those who may be concerned about the senator's age and his health, his campaign at least is continuing to produce some really big fundraising numbers. Take a look at this, a scale essentially of where all the candidates stand right now. Notably, President Trump isn't on here, but notably the president raised about $100 million more than Bernie Sanders, the next highest raising candidate on this list. The president's campaign chairman, Brad Parscale, writing in an op-ed that the sudden flood of donations to President Trump's reelection effort provides undeniable evidence that this impeachment gambit represents a massive miscalculation by Democrats. He says the RNC Trump campaign took in $13 million in the 36 hours after the impeachment inquiry was launched. Kurt, is this a sign that impeachment is going to energize the president's base even more?
I don't think so. I mean, I think regardless of what you think of impeachment, the president's base is the president's base. We've seen throughout his entire presidency, through every peak and valley, whether it was Charlottesville, whether it was the Kavanaugh confirmation, something happens, the president says something controversial, and everyone says, well, this will energize his base. Well, I think we should reach a conclusion. His base is going to be energized in the 2020 election no matter what happens. If you actually added all the totals of the Democratic candidates, you would get a number that's a little bit more than $100 million, roughly what the president raised. So it's kind of an apples and oranges to say that one guy outraised 16 people by himself. You can't really take one candidate, pull them out and say, well, against the president, they got outraised. You have to take the entire aggregate. The reality is impeachment motivates both bases. The progressive base has been calling for impeachment over and over and over again for the better part of this year. The president's base has been ready to fight against impeachment. So I kind of think it's a net neutral at the end of the day.